Welcome to the DSEF. The Direct Selling Executives Forum was created to be a place where real direct selling executives and vendors in the space can come out and share solutions to challenges that face us all in the marketplace. Our guest today is going to be unpacking a topic and sharing their raw thoughts for you to learn from. All right, let's go meet our guest. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you to our next session of the Direct Selling Executives Forum Open Panel. Today's topic is keys to employee retention and a healthy culture via onboarding new employees correctly. And I'm so very excited about the session we're going to have today as we thought through this topic of onboarding and how to set proper expectations and have the right kind of relationships long-term with your employees. We just thought of having Michele join the panel, and I'm so excited that Michele's here today. For those of you that are brand new to the DSEF and don't know about Michele, Michele McDonough is a highly respected influencer and thought leader in the direct selling channel with a vast community of followers, colleagues, connections, and a longtime member of the selected industry associations, as well as current and past board positions in the space. She's a corporate rainmaker in the areas of sales, marketing, branding, strategic initiatives, training, and business development with a successful track record in leadership. With 40 years herself as a senior executive in the direct selling channel. We know it doesn't look like 40 years, but 40 years, incredible, right? Michele's brought the market party plan and network marketing companies from concept to launch with Fortune 500 companies, e-commerce ventures, and startup companies offering a wide range of consumer products in the U.S. and abroad as a strategic consultant. Michele's also served as numerous advisory boards, both enterprise and charitable, and named Entrepreneur Woman of the Year in Los Angeles. Michele, thank you so much for joining us here today. We're so very excited to have you here on the panel.
Thank you, Ben. I love your intro. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Well, this is a big topic, and I'm excited to start it. So, Omar, let's go ahead and get started. The floor is yours. Let's start the show.
Thank you, Michele, for joining in today. My first question would be, as we know, that employee attrition is costly. Maintaining productive employees costs the company less money and does not rock the boat when it comes to the culture. What is employee onboarding and why is it so important?
Thank you for asking that. It's such an important question. And we are in the world of post-COVID. So everything has changed tremendously and it's changing every day. And Ben, you're so familiar with our channel changing literally every 24 hours. So we're all adjusting to how to run a business, how to interact with people, and literally just learning every day. So onboarding is critical. Onboarding means so much. And I did want to mention it really starts. People don't think of it this way, but it starts with the interview process. When you onboard, people think of, well, how do I bring them in? Do I fly them in? Do I do this, that? It's really with that first interview because the employee is constantly establishing their own opinion. They're evaluating, we forget they're interviewing us as much as the company is interviewing them. So it starts day one. And I really think onboarding, if done correctly, promotes employee attrition. We lose. There are a lot of companies that are downsizing and people leaving. And if the onboarding is done correctly, statistics show that employee stays longer. So here's a couple things to think about. Right now, the world is about remote, hybrid, and on-site. So hybrid means a combination of both. And there are companies in direct selling that are 100% virtual. There are companies that are 50% remote. So the key is really determining what you want to do because it does affect the culture. And I did want to bring up one point too. We've run across this in the talent acquisition world. There are executives who struggle in managing a remote team. Not everybody can do that. It's very different. So there's a different process in that versus running down the hallway and talking to someone in the next office. So not everybody can run a remote team. So there's a little bit of a education when it comes to that. So establishing how you want to hire someone, remote, hybrid, whatever, that contact, that support, that physical contact. If somebody is hired remote, it's important to have them come in periodically to experience the culture, to connect with the staff, to connect with their boss. Make that team connection. There are people out there, employees, of course, loving working remote from their home office and having their dog right next to them. But there are people who don't know how to work remote. They don't know how to not be part of a team, and being long distance. So that's one point too. Weekly check-ins. When someone gets hired, they tend to be forgotten. They just get thrown in. There might be a 2-day orientation and boom, do your job. It's important to have some sort of an HR check-in, maybe for the first 90 days, have maybe every Friday, go through expectations with your boss, have that support system in place for 60 to 90 days, because a lot of people get hired and then they get thrown out and get told to do their job. And that can be very scary. Mentoring and coaching for the first 90 days. 90 days is established as a probationary period. But during that time, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of learning, getting to know their way around. And it's important maybe to put in place a mentoring or coaching process to kind of help them through that. And always keep in mind, it's more expensive to replace an employee than to keep them. So you always want to keep that in the back of your mind, especially HR. Onboard in groups. So let's just say a company hires all through the month. It might be supportive or important to have onboarding done the day they start their position. That day is established twice a month. So they're onboarding with other employees. So maybe the 15th and the 30th or whatever. So there's other people they're onboarding with, not just by themselves. So that also helps the process. And then also survey the onboarding process, whether it's checkpoints or a survey done at some point in the middle or at the end. You get your best feedback from somebody onboarding. So it's always good to listen and hear if it's working.
Michele, there's some real nuggets there as a framework for the listeners, for people who are executives, both in frontline positions. We have people when they think of hiring who are listening to the podcast or are watching on the live stream, some are thinking about warehouse workers, where they're putting together a whole bunch of people to pick, pack, and ship products. Some are thinking of customer service people who are, touching the customer
Right.
and in conversation. Some are thinking about executives. And I love the picture you painted of saying that onboard starts in the interview process. People are buying what you're selling or not buying what you're selling right from the way you experience you in the interview.
Right.
That is a powerful reminder. Michele was just dropping so many gold nuggets there, gang. I want you to write that one down. It's like, wait a minute, think about like how you would feel in your own interview process, and those check-ins and mentoring. I'll share with you from even a business that we run in our life at Naxxam. We have a majority of our teams remote, and we have found that daily mentoring, just the thought of in those first 90 days having a mentor / sponsor who daily checks in for that 5 to 10 minutes is so critical. Going all remote. If you're in that all remote world where you're not having those random, lunchroom interactions, you're not breaking bread together at lunch each day. You don't have those little moments to pick each other's brain. You need to create those moments with a new hire. So Michelle's right on in that framework where some of you on this line are all remote or hybrid. And that line she just shared, I have found that to be true over a decade of having remote workers on my own staff. I would say that has been a key to our success of realizing quickly if this person's a fit or not in your culture, and if they're able to move forward in a probationary period. For our international listeners, there is very different HR law, of course, in your country, but think about what a probation looks like. That's would be my encouragement from what Michele just shared. Like, think about what a probation looks like in your world, because Some of you live in cultures where it's very hard to fire people actually once you've actually hired them and what those rules are. But Michelle's right on, many times you need to have some grace and a real training period for them to win inside of the space. That's really good thoughts, Michelle. Thank you for highlighting that.
And, to your point, I know these are one of the questions you might ask, but recognition, appreciation is much more important than money. And I mean, everyone I talk to, they leave because of the lack of appreciation, respect, or the culture fit is not there. It's not the money. And money can be an answer to a lot of things for companies, but it's that fit, that culture fit that's so critical. So
Amen. Amen.
Like money, the base
Yep,
need.
go
Think
ahead.
about hierarchy of needs, and then we'll go back to Omar. Money's a base need. If the money wasn't there, they likely wouldn't be there. But then there's that next need, right? Their need moves past their basic needs being met. If you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to esteem and to being a part of a greater cause. Great books. For those of you, we always give book recommendations here on the DSCF podcast. A good classic would be Chip Conley's Peak. If you want to think about what Michelle is just sharing about an employee's needs in their hierarchy, Chip Conley's book, Peak, would be an awesome audiobook for you to grab. If you haven't been through Simon Sinek's Start With Why,
Yep.
Those are two just classics, I would say. It's funny to call Start With Why a classic, right? It's been an instant classic, right? That are just powerful books for you as executives to check out. All right. Omar, I can see you got another question. Let's go back to Omar. All right. Where are we going from here?
Thank you, Michelle and Ben. Well, that was a great insight from you guys. This question is actually the part of the first question. So, Michelle, if you could please tell us, what does bad onboarding looks like, or what are the repercussions?
Yeah,
good question. And it's always good to look at both sides, right? Cost of employee is the biggest thing I can say, because we discussed that earlier. To replace, it takes time. It takes a cost to do that. But more importantly, something a lot of companies don't think about, they start to create a bad reputation that they're constantly replacing employees. So you don't want that out there. And one of the things that's so important to this whole onboarding process is a culture connection, value and respect. And one other thing I threw in is let them do their job. There's one other thing I wanted to address later is that we get hired, we interview, we do the dance, you're really feeling excited, everybody's happy, you get hired because of your skills, your achievements, your successes, and then they don't let you do your job. So you've got to really, if the job has changed or skill sets have changed, you need to sit down with that employee, but really create the framework and let the employee do their job.
That's such an important thought. If you think about A players, I want you to hear what Michelle is just saying. Many of you as executives on the line, you hope and you seek to attract A players, these game-changing employees that are going to be with your company for the long term. You got to ask yourself, this is a moment of honesty. What Michelle's just saying, are you the type of leader who can attract and empower an A player? Or is your ego getting in the way? You being able to get to the next level in your business? This takes some humility. I'll share even personally, like when I got started as CEO of NAXA, we had 13 employees. Today we have 65. I've had to relearn. If you think about it, it's very humbling. I've had to relearn what it's like to lead at 20. I remember about 22, 24 employees, totally different business. 35, 40 employees, totally different business. Got past 60 employees, totally different business. I'm constantly humbled and learning in my own roles. And from what Michelle's sharing, some of these pitfalls, gang, many times you as the leader needing to level up in the way you lead and empower others. Many times you can be your own bottleneck. I mean, I'm from all the consulting. Michelle does quite a bit of consulting in the direct selling space. And I see it on the software side. How many times do we run into that owner that just can't let go of certain functions of their business that they have to personally do? They constantly have to control every word that's said on every training call, every email that's sent out to the customers in the field, and they're in their own way. They're stopping their ability to flourish just because they don't trust. And so you got to take a moment to pause, gang, and honestly ask why you have that problem because you're not going to get to the next level without trusting others. And if you need a certain type of person that's worth trusting, if that's your answer, well, how are you creating a system that produces that kind of person, or is the space for that type of person to flourish? So you got to hear what Michelle's saying, because those pitfalls, gang, many times they come back to you and me as the leaders. It's our issue. It's not that, oh man, good people are hard to find these days. It's no, are you being the type of leader that can recruit and retain A players in your organization? Because guess what? That's what it takes. So there's a little bit of little looking in moment for each of us as you hear what
Right, right.
Michelle said.
And put the ego aside. You know, Ben, one thing I always think of, the speed of the leader sets the pace of the pack. So as you discussed, as a leader, a president, a CEO, you're establishing the culture. So it really becomes your personality that goes through the whole culture. So you really want to think about that, what that looks like.
And people don't buy what you say,
Mm,
they buy what you do. And so are you able to
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
person who, and so
Yeah.
that's just remembering this, in our Instagram-y reel snap one thought, at a time piecemeal world we all live in, right? Are you showing up every day
Mm,
and living out why the business exists and your
Yeah.
core values? Are those things real, or are they just words on your website? Like, people are going to see through that. As you start to scale your company, they're going to see through any of that. So you have to
mm.
actually choose to live it out yourself before anyone else is going to even get close. A big part of the DSEF and these shows is frameworks. We love frameworks. Michelle, frameworks help us all make better decisions. And so with that, let's move to some frameworks. Omar, let's head your way, and let's start to think through some frameworks here that everyone can learn from.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. What is the structure process to the right way to onboard and the support that follows that new employee for 3 to 6 to 9 months ahead?
Sure, sure. And I did just real quickly before I go through that, bad onboarding. Just remember, expensive, bad reputation affects the bottom line. So just remember that. It's better to do it right than do it
Awesome.
wrong, but all of that adds up to really bad. Okay, so we talked about some things that I recommended at the beginning. So positive, good onboarding, again, starting with the interview process. What are how are you presenting yourself, your executives, even your emails? Is the HR department, how are you communicating? Is it polite? Is it respectful? Is it graceful, whatever? I would say HR weekly check-ins, as we mentioned earlier, manager check-in, whoever they're reporting to. Sometimes the expectations are not set up clearly and they misunderstood, or the manager is not the best communicator. They might need help communicating. The boss has expectations. I put here boss, I probably shouldn't do that, and has not communicated what those expectations are. Sometimes we think people can read our minds or think about all this, but just be really clear on your expectations. Employee programs for success. There's all sorts of things you can do for employees. There might be college or certification programs they might want to be involved in that might make them a better employee, or going to the DSA, or doing things that will make them a better employee is also important too. Evaluate, stop, whether it's 30 days or 60 days, evaluate how they're doing, where they're going. Are they going in the right direction? And where do they need the support, the mentor, the coaching? And this is really important, does the new employee have the tools and the resources? We constantly hear a new executive is hired, but they have no budget. So they have to do all these things out here to grow the bottom line, but they have no budget. So you just want to make sure that they have the resources to do what they need to do.
I love that thought. One of the things that we talk about internally a lot is the concept of the word ETA. We say that if a leader truly wants to hand off a task or duplicate to someone else, did they set proper ETA? This idea of expectations, training, and accountability. So did I set the proper expectations with this person? Did I give them the training and the resources? You talked about budget, right? That's important stuff. Did I give them the ability to accomplish it? And then I set expectations on some accountability for when we're going to check in on that thing. And if you haven't set proper ETA in your life as a leader, when you're 30, 60, 90 days, that's on you, not on that new hire as a leader. So bring back those frameworks you're hearing Michele talk about here, gang, of what this is like. And you got to realize, hey, are you doing the work to create an environment for them to thrive inside of the space? Or are you truly hiring? Are you dropping a multiple six-figure salary on this great marketer to join your team, and you're not giving them the tools to recoup your ROI, right? Well, that's not very wise. Do you even know what they need? Did you ask them?
Right.
Did you go through that?
Yeah.
Oh, talk about a pitfall, Michele. That's a sore spot to highlight for sure for some of our listeners. I know many of them think that someone just shows up like a magical wizard. Not everyone you hire is going to be Harry Potter and just turns on the AI machine and grows your business. There's going to be many times real costs that may not be what you expected to be able to get your business to the next level. Many times it's not what your assumptions may not be correct. You have to understand that as you grow and expand and onboard people the way Michele's just highlighted for us, gang, these are all real conversations that if you didn't have them, that was on you. You could make a contract to hire a high-end guy or gal to join your team and then not get your ROI because you didn't resource them properly and you didn't set clear expectations with how they were going to do it. Man, good thoughts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot out there. So
Yeah, it does.
Wonderful. Such an enlightening conversation. Right. So just out of curiosity, Michele, since you speak to executives throughout the process via coaching, what are you hearing the A players or the employees looking for in today's work environment?
I'm glad you asked that because the employee never really gets to share their words. So I talked to a couple employees to get their feedback, not my feedback, not the company, but their feedback. And I did want to mention that they're hired to do a job, let them do the job because it does your hands are held or there's restrictions in place or no budget. So, that's the biggest complaint. They can't do what they were hired to do. But what they're looking for is a fun and healthy environment or culture. So not a dysfunctional. I wrote down fun because fun was brought up by several executives. They want to be valued and appreciated. And again, that could be so simple as employee of the month or something, just minor. Check-ins and communications, they say, these executives I spoke to said it would take weeks to get to their boss or get to someone to do a check-in to see how they were doing. Difficult to get feedback. Focus on company business versus unhealthy processes. We in our personal life, we all get stuck in unhealthy processes as well. So you want to keep all the processes healthy and functional for sure. And as I mentioned, let me do what I'm hired to do. There's an exclamation point there. Determine hybrid or remote. I think it's important that if you're hiring somebody, you want to hire the best of the best. So whether that person has to be remote, you want to look for that quality candidate first, and then maybe determine if they can't relocate. The kids have to finish school. Maybe relocation is in 2 years. Then you figure out how to work around that, and you want the best of the best. Flexibility. I keep hearing from executives, I wish I could work 10-hour days and have Friday afternoons off, or I don't want to get calls on the weekends all day, Saturday and Sunday. I want to be with my family and my kids. So you do want some sort of boundaries and flexibility, that maybe the rule is, nothing on weekends or whatever. And then, of course, interesting quality of life. I'm finding as I'm talking to executives, it's not the title, it's not the money, it's the quality of life. I want to work from home to be with my children and to see them grow up. So that's become much more important post-COVID.
What's so important about what Michele's sharing, if we unpack some of those thoughts, they come back to how we actually operate our cultures. So if you heard the complaint of like working on the weekend or expected to do that, and some of your businesses do lots of events on Saturdays, and that's just normal. And then some of you don't. And so when you're in that camp of where you don't, and it's not a part of your culture, and you're only working on the weekend because you, the leader, are choosing to, if that's an important part of your culture, it comes down to how you communicate. So if you have an email that you just have to send because you're working on Saturday, and if you start sending emails on Saturday, guess what? They think they have to respond on Saturday. They feel that. But if it's something that can truly wait and you just got to get it out of your system, that's why there's scheduling tools, gang. You can go write the email, press it, and it'll send at 7 a.m. Monday morning. Like, you can do that today, right? There's technology that allows you to protect yourself from your own culture that you want inside of your world. So if your expectations is, hey, I want people to have a great just time with their kids Friday at noon to the whole weekend, and that's a big part of our culture. That's a commitment. We had a client who never worked on Fridays, actually, who built his entire business on his staff being Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday was off every week. And that was their whole culture. And whether it was emailing or communications or texting or updates, all that stuff had to happen Monday through Thursday, or it wouldn't have been real. And so you have to think about each of these things you're hearing from Michele. And if one of those resonates with you, and they don't have to, nothing's wrong with working on the weekends, gang. It's not a sin. Okay. So like if it's your culture that you guys do lots of events on the weekends, that's fine. But if your culture says, no, that's not us, then you actually have to live it. That's the one big reminder to each of the pitfalls that Michele's sharing, gang, is it's not enough for you to put it in the employee handbook. It's not enough for you to put it on the website. Your culture is what you actually do. So hear that today from all the principles and the frameworks Michele shared with us. Be reminded that the gut check is, okay, like some of these are going to resonate with you and you're going to say, oh, we want that in our culture. Oh, we want to be those people. Well, then you have to actually live that way. All right. You just hear that.
Walk your talk. Right.
Yeah. And I always bring it back to real application. That's the whole point of us having speakers and sharing the forum is for us all go, create the world we want to create. And I'm so grateful. Michele chose to come out here and do this today. Michele does placement and executive search, does many things, but what I get most calls from Michele, she's blessed to, help one of our clients out who needs to place a new employee in their world. And it's sad when we see a great A player get placed and then they're like, I had no idea what it was like to work at that company, where the walk didn't match the talk. And so think about that today. If you want to attract A players and you're at whatever level you're at in your business, are you doing the work as a leader to live the way you're supposed to live? That's what I want to leave everybody with today as you hear this, because that's the gut check as you apply these frameworks. Michele, if they want to meet you more, where do they find you? Give us a website. Where do people go to meet Michele if they want to hear more about you and connect with you? I know you're a LinkedIn gal.
In a dark alley.
I'm
in a dark alley. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah.
Ben, I wanted to say another thing. In the interview process, who's ever doing it, executive or HR, there are personality tests that some companies use. Obviously, you heard of Myers-Briggs a million years ago, but there are newer ones that focus more on soft skills, hard skills, but whether or not a sales role is going to be right for that person. Also, case studies. Sometimes when you interview, it might be good to have a candidate write a case study so you can really understand, are you on the same page? Can they really add value? Here are some key points, some answers. And of course, as an interviewer, make sure you ask the right questions. A lot of people don't know how to interview correctly. And it's really important that you kind of ask open-ended questions and, and take some responsibility on that side of the conversation. So, but you can find me on LinkedIn. Very proud. I have a huge amount of connections. I try to post great articles if I can every day that have to do with employees and hiring and HR and whatever to help. So I think the best place is just to track me down on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Michele. Michele, as she was wrapping up, she shared a thought, and I want to give one more book recommendation. We love giving you guys book recommendations. One that changed our life and how to ask interview questions. And Jeff Smart and Randy Street talk about getting away from voodoo interview practices, which is where we all just make up these random questions that we hope people magically answer in a certain way, right? He says, leave the voodoo behind. And he has a and a framework that I have found to be just truly helpful for acquiring A players. And the book's called Who, just WHO. Okay, it's called Who from Jeff Smart, Randy Street. If you haven't checked it out, it's on Audible or whatever, iBooks, whatever your favorite listening is. Great audio, very convicting as a leader, I would say. When I got Who in my life, I said, wow, I've been practicing voodoo on my interview candidates, and that's a 4th round interview. And, you think it's a powerful questions that allow you to truly figure it out up front and then move into a great process. Michele, it was a total treat to have you on today. Omar, thank you for hosting. This was just a ton of fun.
Thanks, Omar.
For those of you that are brand new to DSEF and haven't yet become members, the Direct Selling Executives Forum is a free forum for direct selling executives that is invite only. If you go on LinkedIn and search for Direct Selling Executive Forum or go to directsellingexecutiveforum.com, it'll forward you to the LinkedIn group, and you're totally welcome to join. If you're watching on the stream and would like to subscribe to the actual podcast for audios, you're welcome to find us on Spotify, Apple, and all of your favorite podcasting places. I think it was a total treat to have everyone on today. Have an amazing week and do something with what you learned today.
Thank you.
All right. We'll catch up with you.
Make a difference. Thank
Let's
you,
do it.
Ben.
If you haven't yet joined the DSEF group on LinkedIn, go to directsellingexecutiveforum.com or go on LinkedIn and search for Direct Selling Executive Forum to apply. The group is free and is an invite-only community of direct selling executives by direct selling executives.